We will move on to our second session, Infection Prevention and Control Strategies Considering COVID-19 Protocols, presented by Mrs. Vixie Dominic. She completed Masters in Medical Surgical Nursing from Kerala University of Health Sciences. She has nearly 8 years of teaching experience and clinical experience in intensive care unit. She has a great passion towards teaching. Currently, she is working as lecturer in Sarji College of Nursing. Please go ahead, ma'am.
A warm good morning to one and all present here. First of all, I thank God Almighty, management and principal for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this webinar series. Miss Jinsey, am I audible?
Yes, miss, you are audible.
Shall I share my screen?
Yes, you can share the screen.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, visible, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning once again. During the first session, Miss Shandy Evai discussed about the prerequisites of infection prevention and control, hospital infection control committee, and various standard precautions. In this session, we will see infection prevention and control strategies considering COVID-19 protocols. While preparing on this topic, a few questions came to my mind. Why are we worrying? We are worrying because COVID-19 is a rapidly spreading infection and we have ended pandemic. Now the next question comes. Who is at risk? Initially, healthcare workers is at risk of infection. But now we can say everyone is at risk because asymptomatic patients are present in the community. Why infection control practices? For an infection to spread, all links must be connected. We have seen in the previous session the chain of transmission of infection. So breaking the chain is the best method to prevent the transmission of infection. For COVID-19, so far no treatment is found. So it is better to prevent the infection control practices. What is infection prevention and control? A scientific approach and practical solution designed to prevent harm caused by infection to patients and healthcare workers. IPC goals in outbreak preparedness like COVID-19. First goal is to reduce the transmission of healthcare associated infections. Second, to enhance the safety of staff, patients, and visitors. Third, to enhance the ability of the organization or health facility to respond to an outbreak. Fourth goal is to lower or reduce the risk of hospital itself amplifying the outbreak. IPC strategies. There are mainly 5 strategies for infection prevention and control. First, standard precautions. Second, triage. Third, additional precautions. Fourth, administrative controls. Fifth, environmental and engineering controls. We can move on to the first element or first strategy of infection prevention and control, that is standard precautions. The standard precautions are the cornerstone for prevention in all healthcare settings. They are a set of precautions aiming to protect both healthcare workers and patients from infectious agents. These standard precautions are recommended for all patients at all times, regardless of suspected or confirmed status of the patient. What are the elements of standard precautions? There are 8 core elements. First, hand hygiene. Second, respiratory etiquette. Third, personal protective equipment. Fourth, safe injection practices. Fifth, safe handling, cleaning, and disinfection of patient care equipment. Sixth, environmental cleaning. 7. Safe handling of soiled linen. And the final 8. Biomedical waste management. Next, we can see hand hygiene. That is the first element of standard precaution. Why is hand hygiene important? Studies have shown that the best way to prevent the spread of germs or microorganisms in the healthcare setting and community is through hand hygiene. Up to 30% of healthcare infections are preventable through hand hygiene. We, the healthcare workers, the main tool for work is our hands. And they are the key link in the chain of transmission of infection. Hand hygiene, WHO 5 moments. Before touching a patient. Second, before clean or aseptic procedure. Third, after body fluid exposure risk. Fourth, after touching a patient. Fifth, after touching patient surroundings. Why these WHO 5 moments? That is to protect the patient against harmful germs carried on our hands and also to protect ourselves and the healthcare environment from harmful patient germs. Hand hygiene. How? We have to use appropriate product and technique. And if the hands are not visibly soiled, we have to use alcohol-based hand rub. And rub hands for 20 to 30 seconds, the same way we are practicing for hand wash. And when the hands are visibly dirty, we have to use soap, running water and single-use towel. For that, the time is 40 to 60 seconds. In this picture, we can see a person that is WHO Director General Dr. Tedros. Sir is demonstrating the hand hygiene technique. We can see it. What are the steps? The first step, wet hands with water. Second, apply enough soap to cover all hand surfaces. Third step, rub hands palm to palm. Fourth step, right palm over left hand, interlaced fingers and vice versa. Fifth step, palm to palm, fingers interlaced. Sixth step, back of fingers to opposing palms, fingers interlock and right thumbs. 8. Rotational rubbing with the clasped fingers. 9th step, rinse hands with water. Dry thoroughly with a towel and turn off the tap using the same towel and discard it. Then we can move on to the second element of standard precaution, that is respiratory etiquette. The participants of this webinar, nurses, nursing students and nursing faculty. We have the responsibility to educate others and also to practice us the respiratory etiquette and the respiratory hygiene measures. So, I am putting it here. Turn head away from others when coughing or sneezing. Cover the nose and mouth with a tissue. And the tissue should be discarded immediately into the trash. And if you have no tissue available, cough or sneeze into your sleeve. You can see it in this slide picture. And immediately after that, you have to clean your hands with soap and water or alcohol-based products. Do not spit here and there. Promoting respiratory hygiene. For that also, encourage hand washing for patients with the respiratory symptoms, as well as we have to provide masks to them. Patients with a fever, cough or sneezing should be kept at least 1 meter away from other patients. First, visual aids reminding patients and visitors with the respiratory symptoms to cover their cough. In this slide, you can see an image of a poster or a visual aid reminding patients and visitors with respiratory symptoms how to cover their coughs. Third element of standard precaution is personal protective equipment for use in healthcare for COVID-19. Face mask, N95 mask, face shield, goggle, gown, apron, gloves, and head cover. Risk of exposure and extent of contact anticipated with blood, body fluids, respiratory droplets, and or open skin determines the type of personal protective equipment to be used. So, always before and after patient contact and after contaminated environment, we have to practice or use this hand hygiene. And if direct contact with the blood and body fluids or secretions, hand hygiene as well as gloves needed. And if there is risk of splashes onto the healthcare worker's body, we have to use hand hygiene technique, gloves and gown. And if there is a risk of splashes onto the body and face, we have to use all personal protective equipments. What are the principles for using personal protective equipment? Always clean your hands before and after wearing it, and it should be available where and when it is indicated, and it should be in the correct size and select according to risk or per transmission based precautions. Always put on before contact with the patient. Always remove immediately after completing the task and leaving the patient care area. Principles for using PPE is continuing. That is, another principle is change personal protective equipment immediately if it becomes contaminated or damaged, and it should not be adjusted or touched during the patient care. That means we have a tendency to touch our face. So if it occurs, you have to leave the patient care area, safely remove the personal protective equipment, do hand washing, and after that only you are supposed to scratch or touch the face. Next, donning PPE, donning of personal protective equipment. The steps include: first, remove all personal items like jewelry, watches, cell phones, pen, etc. Second step, put on scrub suit and rubber boots in the changing room. After that, we have to move to the clean area at the entrance of the isolation unit. And by visual inspection that the personal protective equipment sets are correct and the quality is appropriate. Undertake the procedure of putting on PPE under the guidance and supervision of a trained observer. After that, again perform hand hygiene, put on gloves, then put on coverall, put on face mask, followed by face shield or goggles, Then put on head and neck covering. Put on disposable waterproof apron and put on second pair of gloves over the cuff. And this dunning technique is recommended by World Health Organization. Next, we can move on to doffing of PPE. Always remove the PPE under the guidance and supervision of a trained observer. Then we have to perform hand hygiene on gloved hand. Then remove the apron, leaning forward and taking care of hand hygiene on gloved hand. Remove head and neck covering, taking care to avoid contaminating your face by starting from the bottom of the hood in the back and rolling from back to front and from inside to outside and dispose it safely. You can see that step in the image. After that, perform hand hygiene on gloved hand. Seventh step, remove the coverall. Perform hand hygiene on gloved hands. Ninth step, remove eye protection by pulling the string from behind the head and dispose of it safely. Again, we have to perform the hand hygiene on gloved hand. Then remove the mask from behind the head by first untying the bottom, then the top string next from behind head and dispose of it safely. Look at the image and make sure how it is removed. Perform hand hygiene on gloved hand. And the 13th step, remove rubber boots without touching them. Then perform hand hygiene on gloved hand. Remove gloves carefully with appropriate technique and dispose of them safely. Then again perform hand hygiene. These are the steps of doffing PPE. Next, the fourth element of standard precaution, safe injection practices. We are practicing the safe injection measures while giving injections to the patient. So I would like to point out 7 main points. We have to choose a clean workspace. Hand hygiene should be maintained. Sterile safety engineered syringe, that is, one needle, one syringe, only one time. Sterile vial of medication and diluent. Skin cleaning and antisepsis. Appropriate collection of sharps. Appropriate waste management. Fifth element of standard precaution, safe handling, cleaning and disinfection of patient care equipment. Wear gloves when handling and transporting used patient care equipment, and also before removing equipment from patient room, medical equipment must be disinfected. And for non-critical medical equipment, usually only require cleansing followed by low to intermediate level disinfection depending on the nature and degree of contamination. For example, that low to intermediate level disinfection required equipment, stethoscope, blood pressure, cuff, equipment knobs and controls. Next, continuing with cleaning and disinfection of medical equipment. In the absence of manufacturer's instruction regarding the cleaning and disinfection of equipment, use ethyl alcohol to disinfect small surfaces like rubber stoppers of multi-dose medication vials and thermometers, and occasionally external surfaces of equipment, stethoscope and ventilators. Difficult to clean surfaces and equipment. We have to use disposable aprons and discard it after use. Stethoscope. How it is cleaned? It should be cleaned with a detergent and water, should be wiped with alcohol-based rub or spirit soap before each patient contact. BP cuffs and covers. Cuffs should be wiped with alcohol-based rub, spirit soap before each patient contact. In case of thermometer, preferably one thermometer for each patient. And it should be stored in individual holder, clean with a detergent, tepid water, and wipe with alcohol rub in between and dry in individual holder. Then injection and dressing trolley. It should be cleaned daily with the detergent and water. After each use, it should be wiped with disinfectant. Next, the sixth element, safe handling of soiled linen. For that, we can have or we have to use 70% ethyl alcohol for small areas and sodium hypochlorite at 0.5% for surface disinfection. And the clean laundry and surfaces in all environments where COVID-19 cases receive care at least once a day and when a patient is discharged. And definitely, the staff dealing with soiled bedding or towels and clothes should wear PPE and maintain the hand hygiene. Seventh element is environmental cleaning. This COVID-19 virus can potentially survive in the environment for several hours or days. Premises and areas potentially contaminated with the virus to be cleaned before their reuse. Housekeeping surfaces can be divided into two groups, those with a minimal hand contact and high-touch surfaces, that is, those with a frequent hand contact. These high-touch housekeeping surfaces in patient care areas should be cleaned and disinfected more frequently, which are those areas: doorknobs, bed rails, light switches, edges of privacy curtains. A word about the spill management. If it is a small spill, we can use 1% hypochlorite, and if it is of large spill, 10% hypochlorite can be used. Eighth element, that is biomedical waste management. So in this picture, we can see a COVID isolation ward, and there are dedicated waste bins for collecting the waste, and it is labeled with the COVID-19 waste, and the waste is received first in a double layered cover and it is discarded in that bin. And after that, it is transported to a temporary waste storage of healthcare facility, and finally to the CBWTF1, and it is transported for discarding. Then which are the things to be disposed in a red bag? Personal protective equipments like goggles, face shield, splash-proof apron, plastic coverall, hazmat suit, and nitrile gloves. And in yellow bags, collect used mask, head cover or cap, shoe cover, disposable linen, non-plastic or semi-plastic coverall. And also we have to follow the routine biomedical waste management as per the hospital policy. There comes the end of 8 elements of standard precautions. Now we can move on to the second infection prevention and control strategy, that is triage. Use clinical healthcare facilities for early identification of patients with acute respiratory infection to prevent transmission of pathogens to healthcare workers and others. We have to prevent the overcrowding, conduct a rapid triage. Family members should wait outside the triage area and place acute respiratory infection patients in dedicated waiting area with adequate ventilation, and the distance between two patients is what should be 1 meter, and maintain a one-way flow of patients and staff. As this COVID-19 is a droplet transmitted infection, we have to use additional precautions or transmission based precautions like droplet precaution and contact precaution. What are the equipments in triage area? Clear directions to triage area, algorithm for triage, screening questionnaire, documentation papers, personal protective equipment, hand hygiene equipment, IEC materials and IPC posters, infrared thermometer, waste bins and access to cleaning or disinfection, signage in local language for patients with specific symptoms to alert healthcare workers. So this is a sample screening questionnaire. When a patient came to a hospital, this questionnaire is given to them and asked to fill so that we can triage the patient according to the signs and symptoms or the conditions or the answer to this questionnaire. Based on the answers to this questionnaire, then hospital admission of and patient placement. Place patients with the COVID-19 infection in a single, well-ventilated room when possible. And if single isolation rooms are not possible, the patients can be kept in a ward. But the distance between two patients should be 1 meter. And also assign trained and experienced healthcare workers. Next, referral pathways, screening and triage. Screening, area where an individual is evaluated and screened using the case definition. If the person becomes a suspected case, refer to COVID-19 protocol. What it is, we can see it in the next slide. Isolation, if the case definition is met, the patient should immediately be given a mask and directed to a separate area. Triage, that is acuity-based triage, is the standard method used for identifying patients who require immediate medical intervention, patients who can safely wait, or patients who may need to be transported to a specific facility based upon their condition. So this is the triage algorithm for patients suspected with COVID-19. Initially, a screening questionnaire is given and identify the common signs and symptoms of COVID-19. That is, acute onset of fever and at least 3 signs and symptoms of COVID-19. For example, cough, myalgia, headache, sore throat, loss of smell or taste. If it is no or no symptoms present, we can continue with usual triage, assessment and care. If it is yes, place the medical mask on the patient, collect detailed history, and again, if it is a suspected COVID-19 case, we can separate him from other patient and keep the patient in a single well-ventilated room with the door closed or in other designated area. And ensure that the healthcare workers caring for the patient adhere to standard contact and droplet precautions. In triage of patients with a suspected COVID-19 in case of widespread community transmission. In that case, also identify the common signs and symptoms, then place medical mask on the patient if the history shows it positive or suspecting case, then separate from other patients and provide care as per the COVID-19 protocol. The third infection prevention and control strategy, that is additional precautions. Already mentioned that COVID-19, it is a droplet transmitted infection. So we have to use additional precautions along with the standard precautions. So it includes routine practices, specialized accommodation and signage, that is the triage, personal protective equipment, dedicated equipment and additional cleaning measures, limited transport and communication. Patients suspected or confirmed COVID-19. In that case, contact and droplet precautions for all suspected and confirmed COVID-19 patients. But the airborne precautions recommended only for aerosol generating procedures, such as open suctioning of respiratory tract, intubation, bronchoscopy, CPR. All patients with a respiratory illness should be in a single room or minimum 1 meter away from other patients when waiting for a room. And also definitely there should be a dedicated and trained healthcare worker to provide care. Hand hygiene should be done, and also the healthcare workers to wear personal protective equipment. And we have to use single-use equipment if possible, dedicated to each patient and disinfected between uses. Avoid transporting suspected or confirmed cases if necessary. Healthcare worker assisting also should wear appropriate personal protective equipment. Limit the number of healthcare workers, visitors, and family members who are in contact with the patient. And also, their names should be recorded for contact tracing purpose. For infection prevention and control strategy, that is the administrative controls. Provision of adequate training for healthcare workers, ensuring adequate patient to staff ratio, establishing a surveillance process, and ensuring the healthcare workers and the public understand the importance of prompt seeking of medical care, monitoring healthcare workers' compliance with standard precautions, and providing mechanisms for improvement as needed. And the fifth element is environmental and engineering controls that we have already covered while discussing the standard precaution elements. So next, I would like to share an experience given by a nurse working in a COVID center. Just listen to her.
Hi everyone, I'm Tasmin Joseph. I'm a staff nurse in adult children's care. I'm working in a COVID center. Since 7 months, we are dealing with COVID-19 cases. From the starting itself, a hospital patient have certain guidelines to manage the spread of coronavirus. And they educate and train all staff. Then they evaluate the performance of the staff, and after that they will give a feedback. In an emergency area, we have a separate respiratory swab. For all patients, we will take the swab, and according to the patient needs, the condition, and the result, we will transfer the patient after overhead and assessment only, so that we will clear the path they left also. And then we will place a cover covering white to the patient, the gloves, the ring, and then shoe cover, and N95 reset. N95, you have to ask the fitness, whether you have to choose a regular, you have to choose a medium, or a small. If you're not ready for any of them, they will give you power L25 respirator. And now we are protecting our patients, ourselves, and all people around us by the use of PPE, hand hygiene, adequate nutrition, and social distance. And God's grace, now our positive cases results are decreasing day by day, and hope for the good fortune stay safe. Thank you.
Okay, you all heard the experience shared by a nurse working outside India. So let me conclude my topic. Infection prevention and control is key for quality patient care and containment. We have to protect ourselves, protect our patients, protect family, community, and environment. My references, always we have to refer trusted sites like WHO, CDC. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am, for the excellent session.